Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Richmond Water and Sewer Commission on Wednesday, July 5th. Our first regularly scheduled meeting for July. Before I begin, I just want to send a huge shout out and thank you to everybody who helped to volunteer and put our 4th of July festivities together yesterday. From what I could see, it was very well attended, a lot of fun, and very evident that a lot of people put a lot of time into making it happen. So huge thank you to everybody who volunteered their time and their efforts for a wonderful event that was well attended and by all reviews was very successful. Before we begin, would anybody else care to make a statement?
I'd also like to thank the first responders who responded to Bolton yesterday, which was not a pleasant
Yes,
event on July 4th.
News not unfamiliar to this town and this board, always very tragic to hear. So our thoughts go out to the family and the first responders who had to deal with that. Thank you, Bard. Also, special shout out to Josh, who jumped in at the last minute and started the parade. Thank you, Josh.
Smallest thing I could do, but happy to help.
You drive to town, like Bard said, you should drive the parade too.
I guess.
Any other comments before we begin? Hearing none, moving into tonight's warrant agenda. Josh, board, are there any additions or deletions or modifications to tonight's agenda? Hearing none, moving on. First, we have reorganization of the commission. This is an annual event. Chair and vice chair tend to rotate. The commission was reformulated with elections, and now it's time for reappointments. Jay?
I move to appoint Morgan Wollover as chair of the Water and Sewer Commission.
Thank you, Jay.
As Bart, I will second that.
Thank you, Bard. Motion made by Jay, seconded by Bard. Comments, questions? Hearing none.
You know.
Moving forward, calling the motion to a vote. Please identify yourself and signify your vote.
J.I.
Aaron, I.
I would abstain, right? Bart, aye.
And David proudly voting aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jay?
I move to appoint Aaron Farr as vice chair for the Water and Sewer Commission.
Thank you, Jay.
I second that.
Thank you, Morgan. Motion made by Jay, seconded by Morgan to make Aaron Farr vice chair. Any further discussion? Hearing none, calling the motion to a vote.
J.I.
Morgan, aye. Bart, aye.
And David proudly voting aye. I'm very confident that this change will be a good one for the commission and look forward to working with you. And if you need anything, please ask.
Dave, just a question, because the motion isn't clear about the effective date. And
That was my next,
That's right.
it's up to you.
Would you like me to start right in right now, or?
It's up to you.
Get up there.
Okay, why not? We'll jump up.
We'll help you if you need help.
Well, I was gonna say, that's that's right. Thank you very much. And thanks for the vote of confidence.
Thank you.
And Aaron, stand by because he might go running out the door. here.
That's right.
You're just a heartbeat away, Aaron.
My God. Like, would you say, if you do it, I will, but otherwise, no. So, but anyway, no, it's nice that the other three members here are staying on, so that obviously makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm happy to jump in as my first. I appreciate everything that you and Jay and Bart have been doing for the commission as well.
Well, I'd say nothing's been going on and it's been boring, but I'd be lying.
Yeah, right. There have certainly been times when I've been like sort of like deer in the headlamp, so to speak. But anyway, okay. Well,
You want to sit here?
no, I'm good right here.
You
Is that
sure?
okay?
Okay.
I think the protocol is you sit next to the town manager, so you kick each other under the table.
Okay.
Yeah, we write each other notes.
Okay.
You're about to lose that. I'll hold it for you.
Okay.
Is that my job?
All right, I'll move over. No. You did.
I still get to sit next to Bard.
Yeah.
Now you get to sit next to me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Aaron will kick you. Yeah,
Good to see you over
long
here.
time to see. Okay, well, I can't remember, I think David said, welcome to everybody that's joining us tonight, and I think our first item, our next item on the agenda is review the list of water and wastewater items to be repaired or replaced. So, you want to put the list up, Josh?
Sure. So this is our ongoing list, and we check in on this before the meeting each week or each 2 weeks, and we've highlighted the ones in green to try to draw people's attention to the accomplishments in the last couple of weeks. In addition to this, there have been a few things that have come up in the last few days, as well as the last couple of weeks, that we've addressed, sort of ongoing kind of repairs. But these are, as far as things on the list, we had finished creating a checklist for post-power outage procedures. We've got a handwritten checklist together, but we're going to be moving that into a typewritten format.
I think he's got that done.
So that's been on the list for a while. That's going to really help staff when there's a power outage to have an actual checklist to go through as far as things to check. The grid motor wasn't functioning properly. Wiring has been addressed, but it didn't fix the issue as solids are still appearing in the grid. It could be an issue with the age of the equipment. Oil Tanner noted that it is sort of at the end of its life. So no matter what we do, it may not fully fix it until we replace it. There's also an issue where the controls, the machine indicate it's running, but it's not feeding back correctly to the SCADA system. So continue to try to look at that and do what we can to make some improvements before we're able to do a full replacement. Completed items, the water meter bids, as we discussed at the last meeting, we decided to move forward with Zetter. So we're in the process of reviewing contracts and getting that finalized and moving forward with them. Completed the wastewater items. We completed the gearbox and the horizontal conveyor, which failed, and got that repaired. And then calibrate the sensor on the polymer tank. That has been completed. I'm sure Steve will want to bring up that last week, the gearbox that we had just replaced needed to be replaced again. Maybe because we had run it while the conveyor was off, but you guys were able to finish that up in a day with some pretty quick response.
So the incline screw that comes off of the dewatering press that I think it was the beginning of the month failed. We got it over to Giro's and they rebuilt the shaft for us and everything. And then we ran it. It was working fine. Then the other gearbox on the distribution conveyor went. And we got that one started, and then we had to run the press. I'm putting that in quotes. We had to run the press with the incline screw running, but not the distribution. And it just was putting a whole bunch more stress on it. And it broke again.
Is the screw still true or is it bent again?
The screw is as true as it's gonna be. It was replaced last fall. It does run very quiet. It does not have a vibration in the gearbox anymore. I just think it was the added stress on running it without having the distribution auger underneath it running. So that what was happening was it was pulling the screw full. And then it would have to puke down over the top and into the truck. It just was, it's not made to run that way, and we were running it that way. And it broke. It's been repaired. We had it fixed within 8 hours. Took it off, took it over to Giro's. They immediately dropped everything for us. Pressed down the shaft, did the welding, put it back in. Brad and I put it back in that afternoon, had it all back together and running.
Is that auger working now too? Or is
Yeah,
that
the other
still-
auger was working at this point.
Okay.
But it was the added stress from the week
From
when we
before.
did run it without.
Okay.
It running,
Okay.
that I'm sure that the added stress, it literally ripped the weld right out of the shaft.
Not good.
I mean, the penetration was good and everything, you could see it, that it just ripped it right out. So that's all been replaced and is back working. The press is now running. Today, it was the first day that the press is actually run clean and good, and everything was, we seem to be back on track with it. We've had some other issues that came along. Monday. So Friday, the mixer for our anoxic chamber that wasn't supposed to be here until the 17th of July. Showed up on Friday. I called the electrician, made arrangements. He could have been, he was here Monday morning. I had it installed. All he had to do was wire it. So we got the anoxic chamber back up and running, but over the weekend, the anoxic chamber, the other mixers failed. And they failed because they got overwhelmed with sludge in the chamber. So they literally, it was so thick,
Yeah.
they couldn't mix. And that just was the amount of solids that we've been putting back through into the system, from the press. And that we have in the system that we haven't been able to get out because the press hasn't been working. We got all three working. And the decision was made with our contract operator that we needed to drain the anoxic chamber. So we drained the anoxic chamber back into the wet well. Literally hosed it all out, had all of the mixers, the three mixers that are in there, all working good. And then we filled it back up. Everything was working good, and then for some reason, the valve that shuts, that you use to drain the anoxic chamber failed. So there literally was no way to stop the anoxic chamber from draining back into the wet well. It was continuously draining back. This was Monday afternoon about 2:30.
That's good.
It's a confined space. I was at that point, we were draining it. I was ready, even though I'm not trained, I was prepared to go in to figure out what we could do. Came up with an alternative where it drains into the wet well. There was an elbow and it had a flange on it. So what we ended up doing, we scrounged around, found a blind flange and bolted it over the end of the pipe, sealing the anoxic chamber up. So we still have a failed valve in this system, but we're operating. The mixers are operating. In the meantime, both of our influent pumps failed. We were trying to pump stuff that was really thick. One of them, when we went down, the decision was made to pull the two pumps, figure out what was wrong with them. One of them literally had a rag ball in it that was over a 5-gallon pail. The other one had this.
Is that a piece of wood or?
It is.
Yeah,
Oh,
that just goes to show we need the screening in
yeah.
front. If that had been one of the new pumps,
Oh, boy.
that would have been, that, it was literally, we had to pull the pump apart to get that out.
So could you expand on that? What's the source of these foreign objects, if you will?
Comes down the system,
They came in a pipe.
came through the pipe.
Stormwater,
As far as I know, the town doesn't have stormwater connected anymore. That's not to say that private individuals don't have stormwater connected.
right.
Yeah, we pretty much know they do.
I mean, it doesn't matter where it came from, it came through the pipe.
You know, I would just observe that I think it does matter. Because if one came through, it would suggest that we are at risk for another one. Whatever came in this time could come in again.
Mhm.
And I appreciate the screen, but it's intriguing to me, like, that won't go down the average toilet, right?
The path is still there.
I mean,
It,
seriously,
I mean, you're not flushing those down your toilet.
so,
Maybe a towel.
so it's coming from somewhere else other than a toilet or a sink
Right.
with a trap. And so one concludes that there are pipes that don't go through traps that lead to the treatment plant.
Yeah,
Does that not illustrate the need to find those and take them off the system?
I mean, as far as I know, the town's main stormwater is separate now.
Right, but
Right, but
There's probably-
somehow that's
Yeah.
getting into the system, so.
No, I,
I don't think that our stormwater is connected, but there are private connections that we
Yeah.
know about, and we're trying, that's gonna be part of the water line surveys. They're gonna look at those
Mhm.
private connections to find out. Well, it's gonna be separate work by the same engineer to figure out who's still connected, so we can address that.
MSK.
Yes.
Yeah. Morgan, Denise has a question. I'm sorry.
I'm not done yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will only observe that I was on Tilden Avenue today, watching people come along and figure out where the lines were. They opened up a manhole cover on the house next to mine
Mhm.
and said, there is a line that goes somewhere up the hill.
well, so that is part of Holt Tanner's 20-year, the engineering study. And they don't. So what they're doing is GPSing each manhole and getting the inlet and the outlets, or how many whatever there are. And then they're taking that back and they're gonna put it onto a map and assess, they'll figure out where the connections and which way it flows.
Well, they can't figure it out yet, because when they look at the pipe, they said it goes towards the back of my house. And I can tell you, it doesn't go to the back of my house, because we.
Well, I think they mentioned that one to me. There's a Y pipe in that manhole.
And presumably, some of us will recall there was an issue on Brown's Court at a toilet in a basement and a line that went somewhere and nobody knew where it went. Ostensibly, the theory was to a septic field somewhere that couldn't be located. I will only observe, it seems odd that we have something coming down from Brown's Court. We don't know where it's going. We have a line that's on Tilden Avenue going up towards Brown's Court, and we know where that go. We don't know where that goes either. One could hypothesize there's a connection.
Could be, when we get to the point where there are lines that we can't, or junctions that we can't figure out. That's where I believe we bring in Vermont, the rural water, and we scope them.
Mhm.
And find out where they go. But until we get to that point, I mean, we're just in the beginning parts of that.
So Morgan, the reason I harp on this is because if we don't know where lines go to or where they come from,
We're gonna
we
get
might not be shocked that we find objects like
Right.
that coming from somewhere.
Right, yeah.
Truthfully, I'm not too appalled at an object like that. I'm more appalled at a rock
a rock.
or a piece of steel.
Yeah.
And literally, Phil Laramie has said he has taken bricks. Red bricks out of those influent pumps before.
Well, red brick is not that much different than that.
That's right.
Makes you wonder if there's a uncovered cistern somewhere that stuff is just falling into.
That we
Denise?
know of,
I'm sorry.
of red brick lined pipes going to the treatment plant. They
Yes.
have bricks falling out, so.
Can I just have a clarification? Last year, when all the construction was going on in front of Bridge Street Hair, they came through and put a huge new grate for the water to go down.
That's a storm drain.
That's a storm drain, so that doesn't go to the sewer
No.
department. That storm drain, the holes in that are pretty huge.
Mhm.
But anyway, after a big rain, either my husband and I go out and we have to sweep the sidewalk. There's so much trash.
Mhm. Yeah.
Over that hole that we go out and we sweep it. It fills up at least like 3/4 of a garbage can. Cause it all runs down the hill.
Good.
It's pretty unbelievable, the trash that collects on top of that.
Just a comment, the same at Millet and Tilden down there at the bottom, it's so bad. right? Well, the one culvert drain just gets completely
Yeah.
clogged up. Water overflows, but that other drain, it just fills up the zone.
Well, we do know that after a storm, the volume at the treatment plant goes way up.
Yeah.
So stormwater is getting there.
Right,
Well,
Pretty
that's
good.
something that could have come in on a letter of
Yeah.
derangement.
Heidi, did you have a
I
comment?
do, so I just want to go back to the auger. So standard procedure is both of those systems are usually running at the same time.
Correct.
So why would it not be running at the same time?
The decision was made that even though the distribution auger was broken, that we could still run the plant. And that decision was made. I was not in favor of it.
Well, can
And
I,
I,
sorry, when you're done, I want to add to that.
huh?
When you're done, I want to add.
Sure. The discussion was had, the decision was made that the plant had to run. We needed to do water. I was not in favor of it, but the decision was made to run.
Yeah, so we had that discussion with the whole team over there, plus Nate Fredericks, who's the contracted operator. And the concern was if we didn't dewater and run the press, then we could harm the bugs that are in the plant, and then there would be other issues. So we were sort of faced with a damage you do, damage you don't kind of situation. So we tried to run it as little as we could, knowing it was going to put stress on that gearbox. So we were trying to get through a time when otherwise we maybe could have hardened the plant more. So unfortunately, it led to this, but it was a thought out and discussed decision, not just we're going to run it because we have to, or because we want to. We had to run it.
Thanks for following up on that. The other question I do have is I do know that we all did get storm runoff information months
Yeah.
ago that we were supposed to be, as a business owner owning property, that we were supposed to have calling in folks and having these checked out. I know you guys came over within a week or so.
You called us to come.
I mean, so is it 90% done that these other properties have?
I don't think we've gotten very many calls.
I've only
I've heard
been to
from-
your place.
So we haven't gotten many calls on that. And then
I called
Okay.
too.
I didn't get that message.
we are,
You don't have sewer.
so knowing we haven't gotten many calls and knowing we haven't had staff time to go out and do the inspections, what we're doing is when we have the water line service inventory, which is going to be starting up here very soon. Part of that work as they enter into buildings is they're going to inspect to see is stormwater connected. And I think by having the engineers do that, it's a delay, but obviously we don't have the staff time to get to it. We'll then have a really good inventory of exactly what's connected.
I will say almost every 90% of the buildings I enter in Richmond. And observe and look around, there is a sub pump hooked to the sewer system.
90%.
Yeah,
So.
I've only been in one house since I've been here for a year. And that's up on Millet, where the stormwater vented out the sides of the house. And onto the lawn. I was on a house on Cochrane Road because it's under construction. And the contractor called because had a 2-inch water main coming in. And wanted to know if it was disconnected or not. And apparently it was a telecom building that they put in fire suppression with a 2-inch water main. And we don't have any records of it being disconnected. I am hoping it's been disconnected. But there was a sub pump in that. Hooked directly into the. And that was the last one I was in, yeah.
So it seems like some of this conversation connects to the water line inventory, right? That's
Well,
like one of our next topics.
Yeah, and that's starting,
like we
that's
need
starting
to-
soon. We had a kickoff meeting with them 2 weeks ago. So, and as that gets going, they're going to be also doing the stormwater inspection. It's separate work, but at the same.
I'd like to suggest a future agenda item, which is an ordinance with financial penalties for putting stormwater into the wastewater treatment system.
I would
I
agree.
like that.
Mhm, yeah.
I suspect there's precedent for that. I don't want to talk more about it tonight, but I think it bears scrutiny. If we're putting it out there, nobody's responding and the evidence is very many are doing it. I'd like to do something that's prospective that says, as of X date in the future,
Yeah.
when we find this, you're gonna get back with a big expense.
Right.
Because of what we're looking here, which actually is cost to the entire system.
Right.
Denise?
Before we move on, can you tell me the list that Josh had up there? You know, I've been here a few meetings. When did the list begin?
March.
March of 23?
I mean,
Yeah, I think it was
after I
about-
came
Yeah.
in March, I think. It was after town meeting.
It was right after,
Right.
yeah, Linda told me about what Steve told her, and I'm like, oh, holy hell. And that's when the list.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, can you think of any possible source for that piece of wood
Yeah.
other than storm runoff?
Yeah. I mean. You know, could have been floating in the system for a while,
Not
Right.
loose.
but it
Yeah.
came down through.
I agree, we've got.
But the rag issue,
Mhm.
flushable wipes,
Unflushable.
they're flushable,
Yeah,
It says right here,
they're not disposable, but.
but they do not break down. And I mean, Josh can testify, he was down there and I showed him the pile that we pulled out of the pump. And then on July 4th, it plugged again and we pulled another pile.
But part of that second plug might have been because you were washing out the anoxic chambers, so there might.
No, I don't believe so,
No.
because it was already washed through at that point.
Sure, yeah. But
And the
yeah,
second time we drained the anoxic chamber, we did not drain it into the wet well, we drained it into the empty aerated basin.
well, then that is not the source that we were talking about this morning. Okay.
The question I have about this then is if it's not something that's coming from your haulers, it's something that's coming from your system
Mhm.
users.
Mhm.
Then I think you're going to have to educate your system users on no longer using certain products
Like
that
logs.
cannot be flushed. Or whatever, I think you need to educate your users, or you're just gonna have the same problem every week, because obviously somebody. started using
And I have looked at, other places and they put out service announcements and stuff in it. And I think it's worthy to do in this town. There's only 4 things that you put into the system: pee, poop, puke, and paper. And that's.
So I think we can add a flyer into the building that's gonna be going on Friday to remind people of no, don't flush your wipes. And we can do a front porch forum post to continue. We did that a couple of years ago, we had a lot of problems and I think it helped for a little bit. But
Yeah.
continual reminders are necessary.
Yeah, maybe. it
I
could go-
volunteer to make you a little thing if you'd like me to with the information.
Yeah.
Put in your mailer.
There's actually,
And things
so,
not to.
so
Yeah.
Nate Fredericks actually sent me, there's actually like an
Okay.
industry standard one that has all the stuff on it. So we'll probably just copy that, put it in.
Kind of about the water, wastewater bills. or-
Can we include an image of what you pulled out? And I'm serious.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
people don't,
Because,
not that.
No, the rags.
yeah, we still have the pile.
No, I'm serious.
Serious.
That people,
They'll say,
this
"Oh
has
my
been
God."
true my entire life. Once people flush it, they forget it.
Mhm.
And they don't think about
Gotta
where
say
it
that
goes.
the money.
The bill aren't necessarily the users.
Right.
No, but the businesses can, you know,
No, I
please
just have to
pass.
Let them know.
Oh, yeah, you know, please pass this on to your
The residential
customers. Yeah.
user too, who's A renter and not. the
Yeah.
landlord.
That's why we need a few different communication channels.
Yeah, I agree.
Identify everybody with small kids.
Yeah.
I just like to make the note that we have half hour till select board. We
Okay.
got a bunch left on the agenda.
Okay,
I guess one question while we're still on the list.
okay.
It seems like we are using Lake Iroquois Manufacturing quite often. Have
No.
we have,
Gyros.
I'm sorry, Giro's. Have we ever tried to negotiate maybe, or do we have a retainer with them or negotiate a rate since they're our go-to? It seems like every time we have an issue, we head over there. And I am not saying good, bad or otherwise, but I'm just wondering, because we have such repeat clients. Do they do anything special for us?
I have
They
been.
do it when we
I-
need them. Giro's like, if you bring in something there, that you aren't like an emergency for, you could wait 3 months for it. The
I
fact
have-
that
I
they're
have been
dropping the ball,
dealing with
that's,
I have been personally dealing with the Giros for over 40 years.
yeah,
The boys, I mean, they grew up there, they know me. When I bring something in, if I tell them it can wait a week, they know it can wait a week.
Okay.
But if I bring something in and I say, look, I need this ASAP, they will drop whatever they're doing and get
I
it,
get on it. Okay,
because they know if I say they need it, I need it.
That's good, yeah.
But if you do take something in,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of a week, you do have to remind them, but. If you, I mean, and we have done that with stuff that we can wait on. But the press was the auger was something we couldn't wait on. We needed it and they had it within an hour and a half, they had it ready for us to put back.
Okay. Moving on, update on Gateway Sewer expansion.
So tomorrow, we're gonna be scoping the line, or actually Vermont Rural Water will be scoping the line, sewer line up at the school. If it passes the scoping test, they'll proceed right to a pressure test, and then we'll have some information about the health of that line at the end of the day tomorrow.
We'll get it.
Just a footnote to that the we is a very universal we. Because it's not the town and it's not the Water Sewer Commission that's doing this or paying for it or liable for any damage resulting therefrom.
Right.
It is the REITs. So there is an agreement that holds the town. We are not a party to this, but we are interested in the result.
Heidi,
And we signed, and when I say we, the town signed a contract saying we are not responsible for this whatsoever.
Correct.
Okay, that has been signed.
it's between the school and the Reeves,
Well,
right?
there's one agreement between the school, the REIPs, the town, and Vermont Rural Water Association, and there's another agreement between the town and Vermont Rural Water Association that references that agreement. It makes it clear that any expenses that might come of this are the REIPs.
Okay. Okay, so we'll get an update next meeting on that. Consideration of recommending that the select board approve a loan agreement for the water service line inventory.
So that's for the service line inventory we've been talking about. This is going to be 100% forgiven. It's $43,000 and $43,300, I think is the total amount. The way that the state structures that forgiveness is as a loan, so they'll give you a loan and then you don't have to pay the loan back. So being the governing body, the select board has to actually sign that loan, but the commission can make a recommendation that the board do so we can get the free service for the service line inventory.
Okay.
I move to recommend that the select board approve the loan agreement with Vermont State Revolving Fund in the amount of $43,300 for the water service line inventory. Noting this loan will be 100% subsidized and no payments will be made from the town.
You have a second?
I second.
Go ahead.
I second Aaron Farr.
Any discussion? Right, so hearing no discussion, move to a vote on the motion to recommend that select board approve the loan agreement with Vermont State Revolving Fund in the amount of $43,300. The water service line inventory, noting that this loan will be 100% subsidized and no payment will be made from the town. Have a vote.
Jay, aye.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bard, aye.
Morgan, I. The motion carries. Next up, update on. Oh, I'm sorry.
on the service line inventory, do we have a start date and an end date?
So actually, I think they're already starting to do, so it's a couple of stages. They can do some stages where they don't have to actually visit each individual home. So there's some paperwork they can look up at the plant, I believe. They're looking through when buildings were built to kind of assess what date and time they were. So they can eliminate a few of them by doing that. So they've started that work right now. And once they get through that and narrow their list down, then they will go out and do the actual visits that they need to do for the service line inventory. At that time, they'll do the stormwater inspections and then they'll have to come back and get the other ones that they didn't have to visit for the water line to get to the sewer, to the stormwater connections. What was the deadline? I think it's a couple months of work on that. I
Yeah.
don't have the timeline.
As far as I know,
But it started and they're moving forward.
they came down and they went through all the paperwork at the
Okay.
plant already. That's already been done. I would just wonder how many actual home visits they're gonna do, Josh, for your inspection of the stormwater.
Right.
Because I live in Heinsberg, Heinsberg's using the same company. And they, all they did in Heinsberg was send out mailers. And then you go down and you take a picture of where your
Right.
water line comes in and you email it to the QR code,
Mhm.
and that was all it was.
So we did talk to them about that they're gonna get what they can get while they're doing this, but then there'll be additional work to have to go back and look at the other houses as well. They know they're not gonna get everything
I
because,
just wondered.
yeah, they tried to streamline that process as much as possible. But they will be going back and visiting other ones to make sure that they catch everything for stormwater. So again, the stormwater won't be in exactly the same timeline. But that is work that they're gonna be doing for us. Then that will be an additional fee. It's not all gonna be covered by the loan that we just approved, but I think it's money well spent to get those inspections done for stormwater.
Right.
I agree.
Trudy did that when she was working here as well, maybe
The
not.
service line or the stormwater?
Stormwater.
I don't know how much record we have.
Yeah.
Did she do it?
We have all of Trudy's information still, and that's what they already have come down to the plant. But Trudy's information was 2007.
Oh,
So, I mean, it's some of those service lines have been disconnected and redone and since then, but
right.
they took all of the information that we had that Trudy did.
Right. And then they'll provide us spreadsheets, or how are we going to,
For the stormwater?
yeah, how are they gonna manage that? data?
Haven't talked to them about what the product is gonna look like, but presumably a list of properties that are connected, either some pump or stormwater, and we
Right,
can start to work through that.
right, okay, good. Comments? Okay. Moving on, update on water tank mixer bids.
So these bids were due last week. We received two bids. They're quite a bit different. Underwater Solutions has $14,725 for the system. And then we asked for an additional cleaning, since while they're mobilizing here with the same equipment and people. Their cleaning was $4,286. Liquid Engineering bid at $24,323 for the system installation. And cleaning at $8,340. We've not had time to go through those in detail to see exactly what the differences are. It might be that Liquid Engineering bid at a larger mixer. We'll have to look in and find out if they did, and if so, why. And kind of figure out how we're gonna go from there.
That Liquid
If you
Engineering,
look closer.
huh?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Liquid Engineering replaced the one mixer in October that we had.
Mhm.
And I believe it was like 18,000 for that one, so I believe they're using the same mixer. I mean, I can't believe that the other one is the same size.
I think-
But I haven't looked.
Yeah, we need to schedule some time to
Yeah.
look through these like we did with the water line. So that's the initial bids. We'll dive in, get some more details and come back with a recommendation.
Okay,
So that's carried forward to the next meeting.
Yeah.
And this is for the tanks that need to be fully cleaned out and they're gonna have,
No,
this
this
is
is
on
for
the
your water tank.
Water side.
oh, and the diver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's where the diver and
That big-
everything will come into play.
That, the reservoir has to have mixers in it to keep the water all moving, otherwise it just
okay.
stagnates. And then it's required by the state to have it cleaned every so many years. And we've got a broken mixer. And instead of scheduling two things, get
Do it
it
at the same
both done at the same time.
We'll be 1 year ahead of schedule on the cleaning, but
Yeah.
it's probably worth.
And I don't believe we'll be year ahead of schedule. It takes them like 6 months.
By the time it's
By the
scheduled.
time they
yeah,
get here, we'll be right on schedule.
Sure,
And then another item, we're gonna talk about that too.
yeah.
okay. Follow up on efflorescence concerns on the water tank.
Yeah, so we had the report from Childs from 2020. There was continued concerns about efflorescence, so we asked Howard Billingsley to take a look. And I don't know if you all got it. He sent an email today with, he was able to get up there to get a closer look, I think either yesterday or this morning. And he is concerned as he looks at it. He says there's, more than just sort of seeping. He says there's more water than he thought was going to be there. So he's gonna recommend that when we have the diver in there, they get a closer look to see what's actually going on the inside, but he says this is probably gonna move up on our priority list as far as repairs that are a little bit more imminent than we had hoped.
So two comments. First, I kudos to Don Warren for sort of not letting go of this over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It's daunting when our subject matter experts say, oh, it's no problem, and then another one comes in and says there is a problem. So I'll just observe that. And when we come back to this, we should be talking about liability as well. How old is the tank?
I don't believe it. 10 years.
Say less than 10
8
years.
maybe?
So this is a 100-year project that has substantial issues after 10 years that
Less than 10 years.
I'm just gonna put down, I think we need, if this requires substantial repair, we need to be talking substantial lawsuit.
Does it go back to Green Mountain or?
No, SD Ireland.
So.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I'm agnostic about who we sue, but I know if I paid somebody to engineer it, construct it, and they're all licensed and insured.
Unexpected.
There was some discussion on the last meeting that the rebar that was in the tank was
Not epoxy?
Not
not
epoxy,
epoxy.
Right, bare steel, not
And-
epoxy coated.
When I was talking with Tyler today, we had that discussion and he felt that, 100-year tank certainly should have had epoxy coated rebar.
As did Don Moore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the engineering company had insurance for the time period they were doing the work, and that still is in effect.
So that's, I don't wanna flog it tonight, but
Right.
that's something for us to be aware of when we get into what is potentially expensive repairs or remediation.
And Tyler
We need to
thought,
contemplate that.
Tyler thought it would be, when would he get back?
so I think he wants to get a dive video out of it, and we have at least one recent dive video. But
Yeah,
not
but
exactly
he-
what he needs, so he'll look at that, and then he'll look at when we have the cleaning come in. We'll add that, like, more inspection to make sure that we get what he
He
needs.
would, he would like the diver to physically where the effluent is on the outside. He wants to look at the structure on the inside
Right.
to see if there are cracks evident. When he was up there, either today or yesterday, he said that there were 3 places that were physically wet. And they shouldn't be.
Mhm.
And that was a concern.
Right. Okay.
Will having the diver change the bids that we were talking about drastically or?
The cleaning comes with the diver,
Yeah.
so it might add an extra couple hours or something, I
But
would
not-
imagine, but they're already gonna be in the
Yeah.
tank doing the diving.
When they go in the tank, they have cameras built on their helmet. So it's just a matter of going over to the walls where
It's gonna be,
being directed and they have lights and everything so that they can direct and, they're supposed, the walls are supposed to be cleaned at this point. So that they could get a really good view of any cracks or defects on the inside.
Wonder if it's worth raising, I mean, whether they might consider doing some ultrasonic type of, I mean, they would do something like that. We might want to ask about that.
From the inside.
That's what I
From
read.
the inside, right? And, or, different, instead of just doing a video, they may,
Oh, I see, to get
Right.
deeper, I'll ask Tyler what he.
Yeah.
I think that's an engineering question.
right.
I can talk to Tyler more tomorrow.
Yeah, if there's
Yeah, it'd be
We're gonna
good.
up
other
there.
technology.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other-
that's what you'll be doing, yeah, you can
Yeah.
talk to him tomorrow, because you'll be at the.
So
sewer
that's
line.
just gonna be a visual, I mean, if there's something to
There's
look
more.
through the wall,
Yeah.
that they might be able to pick up pockets.
It's a good idea.
I'm not an engineer, but last I knew, there were engineers who specialize in concrete cement structures. It strikes me that's what we need. We need somebody who's like career and training
That's all they do.
focused on concrete cement structure.
Okay,
I know they can X-ray, I mean, they do it on bridges that have.
Right.
Failed and stuff, they X-ray to make sure that rebar was spaced right and everything was done right. So there are ways of doing it without getting in the tank.
yeah, I mean, it's just like cavities in your teeth, right? They look for different shading in there.
Yeah.
so, Yeah, it's technology, okay. Any other comments or? All right, discussion of structure of meeting minutes. I looked through that. I don't know, maybe Duncan wants to come in or.
I can give a summary and if Duncan wants to add more, he can. So Duncan does the minutes for this commission as well as the select board, and sort of the way that they've evolved is they're more of a transcript of the meeting rather than a summary. He explained in a memo that it does take quite a bit of time for him to go through and try to make sure that everything is accurate with that level of detail. So he's proposing to try to shift to more of a summary style where he would capture the main comments, the main points of the discussion, and then provide, of course, the motions that are necessary. But wanted to run that by the commission because I know we've sort of become accustomed to the way they are now. But if we could shift it, I think it would certainly free up some time on Duncan's plate to do a few other things.
I'm new to this, but I do know I always read the minutes because we're supposed to read them, and my instant reaction is there's a lot going on in the water and sewer department, and this might not be the time to start synopsises. This seems like a good time to keep doing. I know it takes a lot of time and we appreciate it, Duncan, but it seems like this might not be the time to switch to synopsis because there's so much information you can gain from the minutes and there's so much going on in this little dumpster fire.
It's my understanding is statute requires far less than we currently do. And so that's what we're talking about is the statutory obligations, or are we doing something more? I would observe, I'm fine with meeting the minimal statutory obligations, particularly now that it's recorded. So if you want to watch it, and note to self, you can watch it at like double speed. So it doesn't take the full duration. And so we do have a full public record of everything everybody said in a recording. And I know I've come across this throughout my career in multiple venues, and the pendulum swings back and forth. But I will say it is really tedious to do these detailed minutes of who said what, and it generally is not an expectation under state statute.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about, the state minimum is literally like who was there, time, date, place, motions, and agenda items. We would certainly provide more than that. It would be a summary of the conversation and some of the key points, but it wouldn't necessarily be word for word, which is kind of where we're trending towards now.
Mary?
Marty Josh just nailed what I was going to say, Mary Holt, that the statutory obligation is motions, whether they passed or not, and beyond that is, you know, at the good graces of whoever's doing the recording, but the statutory obligation is motions, present, start, and thank you, we covered it.
As a water user, I think that it's owed. I think that in-depth minutes are owed to the users for what has happened for the last 2, 3, 4 years and the mess that we're in now. I think it needs, personally, I think it needs to continue a little longer to be more accountable and to show the public and the users that you are taking this serious. These are the steps we're taking. We're talking about it every meeting. We're doing, and I think it's granted they can watch it. How many people are going to sit down and watch it? If they can print it off their computer and they're sitting in traffic, one day they can read it, you know, but I think that it's owed to the public and to the users to show that you're being more accountable now and that you're taking the mess that we're in seriously. Just my personal opinion.
My question's more on a legal kind of thing. Your statutory is one thing where you basically you can have it just be the motions. My question is when discussion has occurred and potentially incorrect information was provided or anything like that has happened, are the videos legally part? They're not, right? The videos, are they legally part of the record? Or is it strictly the meeting minutes that are actually approved and on file that are the legal record? Because if it's just the meeting minutes of the motions that were approved or whatever scaled down version you're going to go, and you do not make the video part of the legal record, then I do not agree with reducing what you're doing. If you're allowed to adopt the video as part of your legal record, then I 100% support potentially scaling down what you're doing. But as being somebody who has been said that I've said something incorrectly in a public meeting, which I did not. I like the legal record being the video.
I'm gonna observe it due to time. You probably want to put this forward again to
Okay.
discuss this again. And
Okay.
give it more than 5 minutes,
Okay,
And find the answer to that question.
including what the legislature does. So my observation of the legislature is they post videos and they keep them on their website for years. I don't know why they do that, if it's a legal requirement or if it meets their standard to the point that was just made.
okay. So it's a question of whether the video is how you adopt it.
Something you have to adopt in was my only thing. Is part of the written saying that part of these meeting minutes are to be inclusive of the video.
Right. I mean, I guess the challenge really is we don't have the time to go back and read verbatim what, or listen verbatim to the videos. if
No,
we're-
but if it's a discussion,
Right,
have it as your evidence.
We'll find out.
okay,
Well, you don't have to approve a video.
right.
I'm just gonna say, I have never seen a legislative committee approve a video of a previous legislative committee.
Right.
But you
That's-
approve it as part of the record.
Yeah, we can find out. Yep.
Okay,
And you can reintroduce it as evidence.
We're running
as
really
well.
short on time.
yeah, okay. So I guess we want to then make a, what's that?
I can be, sorry,
Make a motion of the, go ahead,
what are you gonna make a motion? Sorry, I cut you off.
for minutes from the June 20th.
But we still have two items.
Yeah.
I could do those in like 30 seconds. if you
Okay,
guys
go
want an update. So update for water wastewater superintendent search. We had one of the people that interviewed with us in December, we didn't reach an agreement with. He reached back out saying that he might be interested again. So we brought him in to meet with water and wastewater staff. We also had another person reach out who's a new candidate who said he might be interested. So we had a first interview with him last week, and he'll be coming in next week to meet water and wastewater staff. So I'm hopeful that next week we can make a decision on one of these individuals and move forward with a new water and wastewater superintendent.
Okay. Follow up on the 10% for Vermont loan program.
So the 10% Vermont, we had talked about how that was going to be reopened. We reached back out and they're going to be meeting in mid-July to see whether or not they will do a second round. It's going to be contingent on the amount that gets loaned out in the first round. So we'll know more about the 10% Vermont loan program, probably a couple of weeks now, it sounds like,
That also a follow-up item. I guess.
Yeah.
Like-
once we know more.
Good. That's it. Heidi,
Do we have a date of when the meter's gonna be for the haulers coming in?
I thought we need to wait for the 20-year.
We. The consensus is that we're gonna wait. And get it when they do the upgrade to the plant. We've asked them to include it in that. If the board wants us to go forward, we can go forward with whatever they want to do, but.
You probably need to talk about that in the next meeting.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next meeting. I think so. Very quick.
Yes, I just want to encourage Angela Kotek, back to one of the first items that you talked about in this meeting. The wastewater and stormwater separation and the ongoing water line survey that's going to be happening, along with whether or not stormwater is in part that's kind of like a long range, mid range thing. I encourage you guys to put a grate. That's going to happen tomorrow. Your study is months from now. You need to prevent this now. Put the grate in front of your inflow pumps while they're the old ones before you get new ones.
Yeah.
That should happen now, okay?
We've been talking about figuring out how to get that done.
But yeah, that is not as, we thought it was as easy as we put that in, we're done, but apparently there's a lot more to that than it is to just put it in. Otherwise, I think Steve would have put one in yesterday. But we hear you.
So is that on the list of things to do?
I think that was more of a 20-year study redesign thing, unfortunately.
It is.
It's a long process.
We,
Not everything, But like, there are some things that unfortunately are, and we're running out of time.
And I just suggest that we take this up as, or put it on the list, even if it's, we
Yeah,
can't deal with this
sure.
on the list.
Okay,
And explain why, because I think maybe I know we've talked about
But not
why.
tonight.
Yeah, but not tonight, for next week.
Yeah.
That's what-
It is on.
Put it on the list for next week.
okay, screen setting.
I'll be very quick. Does this board ever look at budget updates on the waste? How often do you do that?
Quarterly.
Quarterly? And I'm just wondering, with the new revenue, the increased revenue on the haulers, can we, I mean, is it possible to see where that is? Also, because we have such a huge surplus, to see where the surplus stands now? I mean, is that something that you look at
Yeah.
occasionally?
I think especially as we're wrapping up fiscal year 23, we'll have a much better idea of that.
So are you saying June 30?
So, yeah, it just wrapped up last week, so within a few weeks, we should be able to get a better idea of where that is as we catch up on other billing.
So maybe in the
That's a
next
good time.
couple of meetings at an agenda item?
Yep.
As an update? Thank you.
Good, all right. Need a motion to,
I move to approve the warrants as presented.
I second that motion.
okay.
So now we vote. I think,
Vote.
right?
Discussion, no discussion, we'll vote on the warrants.
J.I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Morgan, I. Warrants have been approved.
And we have a PO to approve.
Or, you know, your minutes or.
Yep,
I move to approve the minutes of the prior meeting as presented.
June
David, I'll
30th.
second.
There was one mistake. Jay Fur said the first motion on the water meters, not me.
Move to incorporate that.
Okay,
Okay,
I second.
all right, adopted. A vote on adopting the minutes from June 20th.
Aye, J.I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Morgan, I. Then we need to approve purchase orders or,
Yep.
Move to
so-
approve purchase order 4608 for the water tank revolving loan in the amount of $37,704.86.
I second. Aaron,
vote for to approve the purchase order 4608. For the amount of $37,704.88. Have a vote, please.
J.I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Morgan, I.
Got it.
Okay, it's on the other side.
Is there another purchase order?
Yeah, there's two more.
Yeah, purchase order number 4639.
To improve security and stuff for Simple Route. I move to approve purchase order 4639 in the amount of $11,741.59 to Simple Route to pay for various internet and administrative computing services.
And just note that the water wastewater portion of this is $3,943.27. Because this is encompassing a few different departments, but I wanted both select board and water and sewer to see it.
Break it out.
Yep.
Okay,
I
second.
second.
All right, Aaron, have a vote on the approving purchase order number 4639 for $11,741.57.
J.I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Morgan, I.
And this is another one. So this is purchase order 4646. Also to Simple Route, this is for IT services for the fiscal year 24. Again, it's broken out into a few different users. So the water wastewater portion per month is quite a bit less than the total annual. But again, I wanted to make sure water wastewater both approved these going forward.
Okay, have a motion to approve purchase order 4646, $22,440.
So moved.
I'll second.
Have a vote on approving purchase order 4646.
J.I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Morgan, I.
I move to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, may I have a vote to adjourn?
J.I.
Aaron, I.
David, I.
Bart, aye.
Morgan, I.